Hello, welcome back. Just going to put a bit like this. That's a bit better. Hey Sylvie. So this week I have read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, and I also, hey Sylvie, listened to a lot of audiobooks this week. I listened to, I think it was 3. So I'm going to start with the audiobooks that I listened to. The first one was The Practice of Not Thinking by Ryunosuke Koyuki. Now, I think I gave this like 3 or 2.75. It's supposed to be like sort of Buddhist monk principles in a modern world, but I don't know if it was just the tone. It's obviously translated, so I don't know how much affects that. But just felt a little holier than thou and a little too unrealistic, Sylvs. There were some obviously good parts that I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. But then there's some things like it just got a bit too extreme. It was things like don't laugh, because laughing sort of overstresses your body. You start hyperventilating. Instead, just have a gentle smile on your face. And I'm like, okay, don't watch comedies. Don't listen to music when you're commuting or cooking or anything like that. Don't ever lie, including to be polite. So if someone asks you, they cook you dinner and they say, how was it? Don't say it was lovely, thank you. If that's not true, if you didn't like it, just say the truth. I don't like to eat mushrooms. And I'm just like, if people did everything that this person said in society, everyone would think you're an asshole. You're like a real miserable. It's pretty much don't have any stimulation, don't be comfortable. So never use the heater, never use the air conditioner, that sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, it's great for monks, but if you're an everyday person, I don't really think that that's, you know, the way to go. Like there's some things, like they always, he said, always speak in a voice that is not too loud, not too quiet, just the right tone, just the right speed. And I'm aware that I sometimes speak a little quickly or frenetically or over enthusiastically. I am on the spectrum. So I do struggle with a lot of things, especially in terms of like social interaction. And I just thought if I tell people, because I used to tell people exactly what I think, and everyone said like, your daughter's rude, Chanel's and needs a stern talking to. But there's just so much self-monitoring involved in this. Like always make sure that your facial expression is gentle and placid with a slight smile. It's just, man, live your life, have some joy. Growth doesn't always have to come from suffering. So yeah, for me, it was just a little, I don't know, I just didn't like the tone and I thought it was a bit extreme. If it was just like, this is a life of a monk, I'd be like, oh, sweet, great. But it's supposed to be sort of how to do this in the real world, in the contemporary world. I'm like, man, if I'm on an hour-long commute, I'm going to listen to some music because music is uplifting and it puts me in a good mood and it raises my vibration. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You don't always just have to be completely, utterly present and only doing one thing. I don't know. Anyway, so that was my thoughts on that book. Hello. Sorry, Sylvie. The next one was The Joy of Minimalism by Zoe Ariel Poulsen. I think I literally gave this just 3, like right down the middle, possibly a bit less. Oh, no, this one was 3. Joy of Minimalism. It's very basic, very, very basic. There was nothing new I learned from this. It's pretty much just like everything that's been said before. A lot of times she did use the phrase, keep what sparks joy. And I know that Marie Kondo hasn't trademarked that phrase, but bro, that's Marie Kondo. Like, yeah, so there were some things out like, my favorite minimalism book is Marie Kondo, even though it's not supposed to be about minimalism. It's sort of more what minimalism is to me, keeping the things that spark joy. Hello, beautiful girl. So like I said, this was just very basic and yeah, I didn't really learn anything from it, but it's not bad, it's not bad. And then I listened to The Art of Making Memories by Miek Wiking, I don't know how to say this name. Now, I think this would have been better as a book. I think people mentioned that the illustrations and the photographs in this were really beautiful. Obviously, don't have that in and audiobook. I think I gave this this is when I gave 2.75 because it was just dull. It was really sort of boring. Basically, I'll sum it up. To make memories, try and interlace as many sensory things as you can. So only wear a particular perfume for a certain amount of time. So maybe one summer you wear that perfume only, and that way anytime you smell that perfume in the future, you'll be like, it'll trigger your memory for that particular summer. Same thing for food, like eat one particular dish during this time. Oh, that's annoying crap out of me. Eat one particular dish, that way whenever you eat that dish, you'll be reminded of that time. Or what's another wear a certain outfit, have a certain soundtrack. So for that summer, have like a certain 10 songs that you play, and that way in the future when you hear those songs, you'll be reminded of that time. So that was basically the summary of that in terms of making memories. But yeah, just overall it was, I don't know, I didn't really enjoy it. And that was the audiobooks. I'm currently listening to, in case you wanted to listen or read for next week, is Raising Girls Who Like Themselves. So that's what I'm currently listening to on audio. I found that I do love listening to nonfiction audiobooks while I'm like crocheting, because it's the perfect thing. I can't look up and watch something while I'm crocheting, but I like to have something other than just music to sort of keep me entertained. The monk guy would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Just focus on the crochet only. All right, so I'll keep going with the nonfiction books I read, may as well. So we've got Change Your Life by Zoe Bosco. How do we regain our equilibrium when everything feels out of whack? So this was actually really cool. It was, it has a lot of, it's about kinesiology. So I liked learning about kinesiology. My mum is trained in kinesiology. And so I really liked learning about that, using the own method and things like that. And then it talks about certain things in your life. So worth, abundance, magnetism, gratitude, joy, love, trust, intuition, purpose, and surrender. I just really liked it. I thought it was a cool exercise to do, and it was enjoyable to read. So that was Change Your Life. Then we have The Art of Solitude by Stephen Batchelor. When you practice solitude, you dedicate yourself to the care of the soul. When world-renowned Buddhist writer Stephen Batchelor turned 60, he took a sabbatical from his teaching and turned his attention to solitude. This was really boring. This was so boring. Did I finish it? I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember, but just did not enjoy this whatsoever. My partner had a headache, and when he has a headache, he likes me to read aloud. And I remember reading the second chapter in this, and he was like, I was struggling not to fall asleep. That was so boring. So that one was not really interesting to me at all. Then we have Radically Content, Being Satisfied in an Endlessly Dissatisfied World by Jamie Varon. I gave this 3 stars. I love the colors. The colors are cool. There was some full color, like chapter pages, which I think was really lovely. It's nice to have that sort of breakup. But this was bizarre. Okay, so the way this was written, before finding out who wrote it, it was basically like, how do I say it? Sort of just like singular sentences, but just put all together, but didn't have any sort of cohesiveness. They didn't build upon each other. It was just like a inspirational sentence, like, you're worthy. Your own self-worth should come from you. Like, just weird things like that. And it turns out this is like an Instagram sort of writer. And I'm like, that's what it's like. It's just like a bunch of Instagram posts all bundled together. It was very repetitive. It was just, yeah, it was not what I was hoping for, to be honest. I gave it 3 stars. Not super into it, so that was Radically Content. And then we've got The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva Josic. What holds more secrets in the library, the ancient books shelved in the stacks, or the people who preserve them? This had such an interesting premise. I DNF'd this. So I think I got like 70 something pages in, and it was just so boring. I had to, and that was over 3 days. It took me 3 days to read 70 something pages, and that's when I know this isn't for you. That's way too long. So yeah, I didn't like this at all. I didn't care about any of the characters. It felt, I don't even know when it's set, what era it's set in. It just felt like it was set in a long time ago. Doesn't say what year it is, but yeah, just no, I did not enjoy that at all. That was very disappointing. Then we have The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. A prim and proper lady thief must save her aunt from a crazed pirate and his dangerously charming henchman in his fantastical historical romance. Okay, so I accidentally read the second book in this series first. Loved that. That was a 5-star read. Cannot recommend highly enough. I laughed out loud so many times. So you can imagine my disappointment when I read this one. No laughs, and I had to push myself to get through it so much. It was just boring. I don't know how, like, it's the same sort of style as the second one, and yet the second one I was captivated and I was engrossed and I loved the characters, and this one I didn't care about anybody at all. It just fell completely flat. So I don't know why, guys. Like the front cover's cute, like that's adorable, but this just did not hit the spot. I think I gave it 3. So many 3s. So many 3s. And I'd be like, oh, maybe this next one will be better. A History of Wild Places by Shea Earnshaw. Travis Wren has an unusual talent for locating missing people. Hired by families as a last resort, he requires only a single object to find the person who's vanished. When he takes on the case of Maggie St. James, a well-known author of dark, macabre children's books, he's led to a place many believe to be only a legend. So it sounded like fantastical and magical. Besides Travis's ability to touch things and sort of see glimpses of the person who had that item, that's the only magic in this. I can't talk about, I really didn't like this. I've given it a 3. That's generous. It's because I love the author. The whole like sort of mystery in the end was something that I cannot stand. I cannot stand it, and it made me so angry. I'm like, that's why all these people have vanished? Really? That's the plot line. It feels like it was just almost like a Days of Our Lives, Bold and the Beautiful sort of thing. Like I said, I can't go into it because it spoils everything, but I am going to talk about this in the spoiler section. You better believe it. But like, the writing's good, but it was sort of like I didn't care about some of the characters. I called one of the characters like immediately. I'm like, oh, I know who that is. But and I did read it all the way through because I wanted to find out like what's going on, just get to it, and then finding it out, I was like, no. No. So that was that. I know I haven't been doing Kiddo's Corner. I'm going to get onto redoing that from next week. So I'll do a picture book that I recommend, and I'll do also like a middle grade book that I recommend because I have both kids, primary and middle. And so I thought, yeah, I'll just go and start doing that from now on, because I always like to get recommendations when my kids were young, till I became a librarian, children's librarian. So I thought I'd give recommendations to other parents who are wanting to find series or books to read to their children that are decent. It's disappointing too when you get a book and it's horrible and it's not fun to read out loud, or you don't want your children reading about, dark and heavy themes too young. But I'm going to the spoiler section now, just for this book. So if you don't want to hear it, I bid you adieu. Okay, so Travis is searching. There's like a bit of a heavy backstory, like his sister committed suicide, and he always blames himself for not getting there in time to save her. If only he hadn't stopped to have a nap, he would have got there before she offed herself. So he's alone in the world, and anyway, his friend calls up and says, can you do me a favor? This family's daughter's been missing for 5 years. She's an author. She was highly acclaimed, but then the children that read her books started searching for the underground, which was a place in the author's books, and they all one kid froze to death out in the wilderness trying to find it. So she sort of decided to go into hiding, was what everyone thought, but her car was found abandoned. So he goes on the hunt for her. He goes to the town she was last seen in. He finds her car. And then it sort of skips to completely other characters. And one of the characters is Colour, and straight away I'm like, I bet you that's Maggie St. James with just a new pseudonym. And then there's Theo, her husband, B, her sister, and Levi, sort of the town's elder. Straight away you get the vibe like this is a cult. So they're talking about this town called Pastoral and how like the rot is all around and they're only safe in this town. And straight away I'm just like, okay. And then Theo tries leaving the town and going down the road, and he finds an abandoned car of the man named Travis. And he comes back, and he didn't get the rot. He didn't die. And he admits to his wife, I've been leaving for a whole year and I haven't gotten the rot. So I'm like, okay, so if that's an abandoned car from Travis, it's set in the same time, but then where's Travis? So then there's a whole mystery of like what happened to Travis. And then they end up, B's like, I think there was a man like staying in our house. And they find some of Travis's journals that he'd gone to the town. He'd found Maggie St. Clair, but she didn't want to leave. And then they're like, who's Maggie St. Clair? Who are these two people that have been in our town and yet we do not know who they are? So yeah, that's the whole mystery. B is also blind. She just went blind randomly one day. But anyway, so they start like discovering stuff like Colour, who I said straight away, I'm like, that's Maggie. Found Maggie's books buried in her backyard, but she has no recollection, so she doesn't know she's Maggie. Anyway, this whole thing, and then B's pregnant with Levi's kid, but then Levi admits to her that, oh, I'm actually going to marry this other chick, and she's just like, what the fuck? And then someone in the village has a baby, and the baby's got like serious health complications, and B's like, we need to get her a doctor, otherwise she's not going to live. And Levi's pretty much like, no, can't risk it. Sorry. Like pretty much the baby's got to die. Anyway, the baby's dad and another dude try to leave the compound, and then Levi finds them and he makes them submit to the trial, which I think is something like burying them in the ground and then having their hands like held above their head. Like fucking weird shit, man. Like barbaric. And if they survive 3 days like that in quarantine, then they can come back into the town. But then he like cuts them and supposedly their blood is like black. But then I'm like, could it just be congealed blood because their arms are being held above their head? So I don't know. Anyway, so then they die. They're killed pretty much. I don't know I can't remember if they died just naturally from the messed up way. Like they're unburied and then maybe their chest is collapsed. I don't remember. I was just like skimming through at this point. So I'm like, I just want to get to the end. This is starting to like irritate me because there's too much of like, what's going on? I don't remember. Were these people here? And I started getting like the feeling of what was coming. And then it turns out, lo and behold, Levi has somehow hypnotized every single person in the town, including Maggie who came in, including Travis who came in. So Theo is Travis. He somehow hypnotized them all. They couldn't remember, like, he told them they'd all grown up there or some BS like that. And he'd even hypnotized B to believe she was blind. And that's when it, for me, I was like, I can't suspend my disbelief this much. Because if this was like, if it's magic, you accept it. Like, here's a power to mess with people's memories. Okay. But in a contemporary world, in like the real life world, hypnotism, I'm like, no, I don't believe that you were able to hypnotize every single person continuously to all believe the same. I just don't. I didn't buy it. So the whole town's been hypnotized. There is no rot, obviously. They're just all living in the bush. And I'm like, how are they surviving? How are they growing enough food just themselves to, to eat? How are they powering everything? How is the government not knocking on their doors asking for taxes? Like, I just found it, because it's just in an American state. It's not like it's in the middle of nowhere. How did the cops not find it? Like, when she went missing, she parked her car. How did they not search very far? Like, that's the thing too. Supposedly the cops searched for years. Really? You didn't use a helicopter? Because if you use a helicopter, you'd be able to see the compound. Like, so it was too much. That just made me so angry. It just made me so angry. So anyway, B ends up, like, Levi tries to kill B, so B kills him. Maggie and Travis come back out of town. Obviously, Travis has got nothing in the real world. Maggie's parents are like, oh, you know, we found you. But then Mum's like, that's where I was from. You were actually born there. Your stories were based on the stories I told you about living there. And I'm just like, bitch, your husband was like searching for 5 years for, you know, his kid. Turns out it's not his kid. His kid ended up paying a private detective, and you knew all the time, like, where you'd sent your daughter and that she was probably still there, and you didn't, like, tell him. So, and then Maggie is like, I'm not really Maggie, I'm Calla now, and I'm going to go back to the compound. So, and the woman and her baby made it out though, and it turns out the woman had a husband who'd been, like, searching for his wife, and obviously now she's got a baby with a dead man though, because he was killed. But I'm like, yeah, what about all these other people that maybe aren't there of their own free will? But, like, how, like, do you know what I mean? He's not, like, grabbing them and pinning them down and then hypnotizing them. He's just able to do it through regular conversation. No, bro, no. So anyway, that was this one. It was so disappointing. It was so disappointing. I read so many books and I did not like most of them. It sucks. Sylvie, we're not doing nibbles. So that sucks. But I'm looking forward to the other books that are still in my TBR from the library. I think I'm going to take a break from library books once I finish them all, because I just don't like having that deadline. Like, I need to finish them. It's a bit overwhelming. So once I'm done with them, I'll take a break and go back to ebooks for a little while. But yeah, this week, not that great, but I'm hopeful. Hey, you know, we can only go up from here, right? So we'll see how we go next week. But wherever you are, I hope you're having a stunning morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And as always, stay wild, star child.